Welcome, everyone. I'm Dave Weisberger, the CEO of CoinRoutes, live from Bitcoin 2023. It's Saturday, May 20th, and it's time for our This Week in Crypto roundup of the week's events. Well, amazingly, the market did almost nothing this week, despite Bitcoin 2023 and the lunacy that goes around it, usually causing Bitcoin to go kerflooey. It didn't. But there are a lot of things going on here that deserve commentary. Most importantly is the absolute stupidity of the internecine warfare between Bitcoin tribes. Let's be clear, people. Many people, ourselves, CoinRoutes, and other companies that are serious think Bitcoin should be the global reserve currency. First, it has to become digital gold, and it has to be something that people can use, invest, and trade efficiently and cheaply. That's the important thing, and most importantly, safely. Yet, what's the focus at this conference? We have the laser eyes against the taproot wizard hats in debates, and this is what people care about. Are you fucking kidding me? We are trying to create a new financial system, one with a base layer of value that is the best of money, that is portable, divisible, verifiable, scarce, transferable, one that can work with a monetary system planned out better than Harry Seldon's psychohistory analysis from the Foundation that has worked for the last 13 years and looks like it's going to work all the way through 2140 for lots of reasons. And we can discuss those in other times. But the fact is, Bitcoin is miraculous in a certain sense. Whoever planned it, whatever group was Satoshi or person was Satoshi, did an enormous job. But here we are worried about Pepe the Frog being inscribed into Bitcoin ordinals, causing slightly higher fees, which mean that you can't transfer and do micropayments using Bitcoin. And Bitcoin maxis yelling that everything else is a shitcoin and is a security. Well, let's be really clear. They're both dumb. It's not that one is right or the other. They are both wrong. The Bitcoin maxis are wrong because while Bitcoin is the only coin today that has any viable chance of being money with all the monetary policies in there, which is totally decentralized, and Ether doesn't because with staking, it is now by definition centralized. The fact is there are two use cases here. One is to be the base layer of money. The other is to provide infrastructure for a digital financial system. And if one thing Pepe the Frog has taught us is that Bitcoin as a layer one isn't that. It might very well be a monetary layer, and with things like Lightning could be used for money, but how is it going to work for securitized swaps? How is it going to work for securities lending? How is it going to represent securities like IBM and do better share registries? There are many, many, many applications to transform the financial system from today's analog system to a future digital system. Now, whether or not those platforms need their own coins, I would say 90 some odd percent of them do not. And so, yes, maybe of the 2,000 plus coins that people talk about, maybe a couple hundred should exist. But the reality of the situation is the debates are distracting, and they give fire to the morons on Capitol Hill reading those Democratic talking points they talked about last week. The fact is, the United States is in a ridiculous situation. We have the best analog system. In the analog financial system, we are the best. It is more efficient to trade. It is more efficient to custody. It is something that has helped our issuers raise better than any other issuers in the world. So it's funded entrepreneurship. At the same time, our pools of capital, our investors have grown wealth because they can invest better, cheaper, more efficiently. If the world goes digital and the US gets left behind, that's going to flip, and trillions of dollars of GDP are going to be trimmed from the US's future potential. That is not helped by on our shores these wars, which give the politicians the ability to say that the crypto community is not serious. The fact is there are serious people, and that's what we should be focusing on. Now, let's walk around and take a look, and you can see a little bit of what I mean. First of all, I can honestly tell you that despite it being Saturday, it's just as crowded today as it was yesterday, meaning compared to last year, I think it's like half the number of people. You could get into any event, you can get into any stage. If we walk down this way, we can see what's going on. The fact is CoinRoutes, which you saw our booth, we are a serious trading system, and we are helping people trade better. Now, why does this matter? Well, I gave a talk, and you saw what we talked about last week about how we can stop people from having to pay multiple percent to trade in and out of Bitcoin. In fact, most of the apps here that are still advertising charge at least 1% to buy and 1% to sell. If you think about that, what I said in my speech here was that Charles Schwab, before they came into the equity markets, when there was very low participation from retail, uh, they were paying fees like that from Morgan Stanley and all the incumbents. But Schwab lowered those prices. That hasn't happened in Bitcoin yet. That hasn't happened for any crypto yet. So that's kind of a big deal. We need to be serious, and that is what matters. So if you want to understand serious versus not, all you have to do is look at this mall, if you will. We have gaming. Okay, that's reasonable, I guess. We have cloaks, we have t-shirts, we have Bitcoin panties, and we have many things which really have nothing to do with the fundamental principle of sound money, which is what this is about. In a way, it's unfortunate because Jessica Vaughn, as beautiful as she is actually a proponent of sound money. Her brain, and I follow her on Twitter, I would encourage you all to do the same. She understands old-time philosophers from Young on and understands the importance of sound money, but what she's doing is using her looks to promote her brilliant ideas. And if that were all it was, it would be fine. But that's not what's happening here. People in the Bitcoin community are rallying around what is effectively a game or a meme to try to get people's popular imagination. But the reality is the opponents of Bitcoin and crypto on Capitol Hill want to see it being serious. And we need to understand we are under attack. And fundamentally serious things are what matters. Making it safe, making it secure, making it efficient. So let's go on. For one educational display, which could actually help, is surrounded by fundamentally non-helpful displays. What they're trying to promote would actually help people understand sound money in Austrian economics, and that's a good thing. So there are some people who are trying to help, but the truth is we have a situation where the Democrats in Congress are saying things, as I chronicled last week, that don't understand the value of sound money. And when they come in here and look at this, you can understand where they come to that conclusion. So one of the highlights for Bitcoin 2023 for me and CoinRoutes was I was up on this stage giving a 5-minute speech talking about the adoption of Bitcoin. Now, I paused at 5 minutes because the idiocy that's such an important topic of how to drive global adoption was limited to 5 minutes speaks to the nonsense and the stupidity of Bitcoin Magazine and how they have no concern about what really matters to the community writ large. But in this speech, which the link is on the screen in front of you on YouTube, we talk about specifically how Bitcoin can be cheaper and more efficient to trade using tools such as CoinRoutes, and why does it matter? Okay, so standing here in front of the Bitcoin sign, let's talk about what's actually happening in the macro debate. I've on Twitter talked about what Max Kaiser's nonsense, where he continually points to every other coin as securities as if that's somehow a bad thing. Let's cut through the crap. The fact of the matter is, if you talk to people at the SEC, and I have literally talked to hundreds of them, every single person in that building thinks they should regulate Bitcoin's trading. When you talk about what securities are versus commodities, the sole question, the only question, is the issuer side of regulation. But understand that the SEC, CFTC, et cetera, and the financial authorities around the world regulate two sides of the coin, both. First, they regulate issuers, i.e., is the investment itself something that needs to disclose information for people to understand what it's worth? That's the issuer side. That affects entrepreneurs, companies, et cetera. On that, I agree that there is a difference between commodities like Bitcoin and everything else. So that is true, and that makes sense. Bitcoin, there's nothing to disclose. It's all public. It's all in the public blockchain. You could make an argument Ethereum, everything is public as well. But there are many coins where there are foundations or humans who are doing things that should be disclosing what's going on to understand the value proposition. Now, the simple fact is, in the United States at least, the disclosures that are used for securities have no applicability to most of the coins. We need new disclosures, ones that talk about tokenomics, about governance, about what cash, what scarcity, etc. And that needs to happen. People need to know if a rug pull is imminent or could be deduced. That is true, but we don't have the laws to do it. But the flip side, what Kaiser and these other lunatics ignore, is the second part of regulation, which is how do the assets trade? Are the assets trading in a way where people are being extorted for excessive fees? Are they trading in a way that people could be manipulated? Is the trading actually happening? Are they wash sales? Are they phantom trades? Are people doing things bad to upset the principles of fair and orderly markets? Well, the reality is that the Bitcoin market is evolving towards fair and orderly markets because of companies like CoinRoutes. We look at all the market data. We understand where the fair price is. As we've said before, and as I said in what I published last week, our clients save a lot of money. Last month alone, just on Bitcoin dollar purchases of less than $1 billion, we saved our clients over $1.7 million in fees. The fact is, those markets are not efficient if companies like ours can save such an egregious amount. We need to understand that because Bitcoin still needs to be regulated, whether it's derivatives or spot. It needs to have a fundamental, safe, and secure way. The other thing that regulation is for is to protect client assets. People need to know if they own something, they own it. And yes, with Bitcoin, you can own it directly, but a lot of people use intermediaries and they need to understand how those intermediaries work. Whereas all the other coins have exactly the same problem. So when people make these arguments that something is a security and something isn't, it's complete and unadulterated nonsense. Yes, the security commodity differentiation makes a difference in the US because of who the regulator is. But what it doesn't mean is that one could be a free for all and the other is something that we could stamp out, which is what Kaiser keeps saying. And he's totally wrong. And unfortunately, as the financial system evolves toward digital, everything is going to have some sort of regulation. The hope is it will be principles based. Now, with that rant out of the way, what does this mean for us? What it means is we need to educate politicians, and some of them get it. I mean, Tom Emmers, Patrick McHenry, even RFK Jr., different parties understand the basic principles I've just espoused, but many don't. In fact, most don't. And so it's incumbent upon the community to stop with the stupidity. I don't care about wizards against laser eyes. Frankly, I will debate both of them anytime, any place. That's you, Corey Klippstein. That's you, Max Kaiser. That's you, hell, Michael Saylor, although I think he's closer to my point of view than those guys, but tones it down because he wants to be accepted by them. I think that I don't want to hear about what's going on. The fact of the matter is Bitcoin is a blockchain that has a monetary policy that is evolving into something that could be truly special, and breaking it by these sorts of nonsense is the wrong thing to do. Okay, rant over. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We're going to get back to work here at Bitcoin 2023. Have a great rest of your week and see you next week.